Almost 2 days have passed since the new patch came through, and in this video we're gonna check out what are all of the best decks right after the balance patch. HS Replay Premium already has some pretty awesome stats to go through, so now we get to see what the big winners of the new changes are. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, a like and subscribe would really be awesome, and don't forget you can also check out my Raid Shadow Legends channel, where I do my best to give you guys top quality raid content as well. Now, let's get into the video.
You are not prepared!
The most popular and one of the highest win rate decks after the patch is actually the Beast Hunter I showed you not too long ago. This is the deck Tweaks created, and I gotta say, it felt really nice when I played it, and I did think about playing it right after patch 2, but decided to go for some newer things that are not actually doing as good right now. Beast Hunter is a super strong deck. It basically relies on you having a lot of beasts in the deck, and also after that you buff him with Supreme Dynamancy as well as City Chief Esho, and this is pretty awesome. Like, the deck is pretty solid, as any tribe deck usually is when it has enough support, and this one definitely does. You can definitely check out my detailed guide about this deck if you want to see exactly how you want to be playing it, but now let's see what the updated stats for this bad boy are. Matchup wise, you're gonna see you're not gonna have a super happy fun time against Death Knights, but right now there's actually no Death Knight in the top 5 list, even though some are doing pretty well. Cog Demon Hunter used to be pretty bad for you, maybe it still is, cause that's actually still on the list, guys, spoiler alert, but yeah, it's still actually on the list, but it's definitely gonna be a lot more bearable now, I do believe. Fishing Priest also is a little bit on the bad side, but that is no longer on the top 5, and it did get a good amount of nerfs, so maybe it's not gonna be as big of an issue. But Agamagan Warlock is actually a new up-and-comer, which again is on the top 5, and it is kind of problematic for you. For the mulligans going first, here's what we have. You want to be holding on to one of your good 1-drops, the weapon is great, Ancient Raptor for turn 2 is awesome, fetch pretty nice to give you a couple of cards most of the time, unless you get unlucky and actually draw yourself Esho. Warhorse is also great if you're curving into it, and same can be said for RC Rampage. Jungle Gym can also be a consideration, honestly. On the coin, again, we can see plenty of the same stuff, so definitely keep in mind you gotta be looking for these cards when you're going first and second. For other good hunter decks, we can see plenty of the same stuff at the top ranks, a lot of different Beast Hunters at the top, but alas, Quest Hunter, even though feels a lot better now, it is nowhere near as good as it's supposed to be. I think I showed you this list last time, and yeah, it definitely felt fun for the first couple of hours, but maybe the meta just shifted way too hard, in a direction this deck does not handle well. Surprisingly, Dummy Warrior is on the rise as well, and this deck is having some pretty serious win rate with not that bad a sample size too. Dummy Warrior is quite the solid deck, and it does have some pretty nasty things it can do, including turn 5 Chemical Spill to get yourself a Tortilla on the board, into a turn 6 Crazed Alchemist, and that really is crazy. And this can also happen on turn 5 actually, like turn 4 with the coin get Tortilla out, and then on turn 5 Crazed Alchemist to the mouth can be absolutely insane. You also have the Part Scrapper in here, which does allow you to do something like testing dummy as soon as turn 3, and that is also pretty awesome, because with the help of things like Safety Goggle, Part Scrapper, and testing dummy, things go out of hand way too quick. We obviously have tons of ways of actually dishing out extra damage with the help of the dummies, and you have things like your Boom Wrenches, like your Recommendecums, like your Carnivorous Cubicle, Endbringer Umbra, Inventor Boom, and so on and so forth. You're gonna notice we actually do not have Hydration Station in this one, which is kinda interesting, but all around the deck does look super solid with above 60% win rate right now. We don't have matchups just yet, so we're gonna have to wait and see how this one pans out, but for now, definitely looks like a very promising deck to be trying. Going first, here's what you're gonna go for. Quality Assurance gives you a couple of your good taunts out of your deck. Shield Block is great, giving you armor and card draw. All You Can Eat gives you a lot of stuff in your hand. Even Elise is in here actually, because you do have enough cards to actually pull her off, and getting yourself a 5/5 copy of a testing dummy ain't no joke. Part Scrapper is super solid, and also Chemical Spill, maybe even Xavius. Technically speaking, even Safety Goggles could be a keep if you already have a Part Scrapper, but you gotta get lucky to actually get yourself the testing dummy as well. As for going second, again we can see plenty of the same stuff, so doesn't matter much if you're going first or second, you know what to mulligan for now. Here's the list I'm showing you. 61% win rate for the last day and something since the patch came through, with 800 games. Definitely very solid stats. Not as popular as some other decks, but still pretty promising and definitely worth checking. Taunt Warrior is also pretty playable it seems. This is with the quest included. Definitely respectable sample size and such, same with this one. So yeah, plenty of different quest variations of Taunt Warrior out there that are gonna be giving you tier 2 results basically. Like I said, Hog Demon Hunter is still into the top 5, and this is gonna be the deck on the number 3 spot. The deck is actually still surprisingly strong, but it's not really that surprising. The nerfs are really not that hard for it. Yeah, Ball Hog is dealing a little bit less damage now, of course, but these lists don't rely on Ball Hog as much anymore either. And as for the Brain Masseuse, to be fair, most of the variations of this deck didn't run this card either, so who cares about that. But they're still actually running Sock Puppet, which is kinda interesting. This thing sitting at 2 health only is gonna be a lot easier to actually handle for a lot of decks, so I'm not sure if this is the best iteration of this deck, and Grim Harvest definitely I would be swapping for something like Patches, or heck even Brain Masseuse, but Grim Harvest just feel a little bit too slow on this deck if you ask me. But yeah, all around the deck is pretty much same stuff. You can definitely check my guide about it and see how the deck is supposed to get played, even though it is from the buffed version. Right now we can see on the matchup section that only Taunt Warrior will be really a problematic deck. Hog Demon Hunter, that's a mirror basically, so anything goes there. Everything else pretty green, however. When going first, you are gonna want to hold on to one of your good 1-drops. Spirit of the Team is great, Dusk Piercer is awesome, straight up Living Flame could be a consideration as well. Grim Harvest I personally don't like as much. If you're curving into the Insect Claw, definitely not bad. On the coin, plenty of the same stuff, so it really doesn't matter if you're going first or second. It kinda matters if you think you're against a board-centric matchup, however, like if you're against the Pally and you think their quest, Hot Calls probably does make the cut. Here's the list I'm showing you, 3,800 games still with 60.9% win rate. Definitely nothing to scoff at, that's for sure, but everything else is actually on the whatever side, including Quest Demon Hunter, which is just, it was definitely the flavor of the day, but as you see, the win rate is just not there, even with all of those buffs it received, so that just goes to show how bad the quests were, and still are, basically. On the number 4 spot, we actually have a fresh new deck out, in the top ranks at least. I did hear about this deck before, but it never really was anything to write home about, but now, with the meta slowing down a lot, this deck actually shines a lot. There's several different iterations of this deck with crazy good win rate, and the gist of this one is you get to do things like Puppet Master Dorian, and then use your 0 mana Cursed Catacombs, so you can actually get yourself a Agamagan, which in turn is gonna allow you to play something like Ysera, or Ferak, or Shaladrisil, or Kerrigan, basically something big at the expense of the opponent's health, because you are gonna get yourself a minion and make it into a 1/1 copy like that, which is kinda insane. You also could be doing that with the help of Xavius, but that becomes a lot more expensive and not at all as explosive. But yeah, the Cursed Catacombs definitely is amazing for this type of playstyle, so you could be doing some pretty nasty things that way. The rest of the deck has pretty much a lot of control stuff. It does have a lot of the Zerg package with things like Nidus Worms, Kerrigan, the locations, and the healing out of the locations. You also have things like Deadline, which is kinda cool, destroying a minion or tradabling this, but it's also temporary, so you gotta be careful with a card like this. Bob is nice in here, so you can have some flexibility. Shaladrisil as well. And tonight I might actually give this deck a try because it definitely looks pretty solid, fun, and here to stay it seems. Matchup wise, here's what we have right now. Nothing too bad from the top side, but you're actually pretty horrible against warriors, so basically if somebody is gaining too much armor or health against you, probably not the bestest of matchups for you. And as for the mulligan, here's what we have. You are always gonna want to look for your fractured powers, so you can actually get yourself a lot of extra mana nice and early. Puppet Master Dorian, straight up a keep. You definitely want to be getting this guy on time. Nidus Worm's also pretty nice, spins out the deck nice and good for you and also gives you a lot of good stuff. Cursed Catacombs, very important. Xavius straight up, so potentially you can fish out Puppet Master Dorian if you still haven't. Demonic Study is also apparently not that bad. This way you actually get to play your Xavius a little bit sooner, maybe even discover yourself a second one. The rest probably not so hot, even though depending on the matchup you might consider some removal too. On the coin, again, the core game plan remains the same, but again, removal like Hellfire and Drain Soul and Table Flip might be definite considerations. Other than that, this is the list I'm showing you. Above 5,000 games, 60% plus win rate, kinda insane stuff, and there's even a better version of it, technically better, 62% win rate, but with a lot less sample size, so you might want to give this one a go as well, with things like Eternal Layover, with Elise, that kind of stuff. It looks promising too, but this one is definitely proven. We also have Quest Warlock actually doing quite well after the patch, so that is another playable Warlock deck out there now, but it's definitely nowhere near as strong as Agamagan. And on the last spot, we do have a deck that was pretty obvious is gonna remain pretty strong because it was busted before the patch, and after the patch, sure it's gonna remain busted because the nerf to it was kind of a joke and everything else got nerfed, so why wouldn't it shine? And yeah, Bandage Priest is hella strong, and that is why I did give you a video about it right after the patch came through, so you guys know exactly what to expect with and against this deck. The deck is pretty solid. The Wilted Shadow being a 6/7 now definitely does not hurt the deck all that much, and you're still gonna be able to do crazy things with this one. The main gist of the deck is you basically stall up until turn 7, 8, and as soon as this Wilted Shadow dies, you get to revive it a couple of times with Rest in Peace and start blasting with all the 0 mana Careless crafter bandages to the opponent's face, and that would be basically 12 damage every time you heal them for free, so that's not gonna last very long for the opponent. You do have several different ways of getting yourself extra crafter bandages with the help of Resuscitate, and that gives you a grand total of 4 extra bandages from a single one. If you play this twice, that's a grand total of 8 bandages, so that is kinda insane. But yeah, you do also have to keep a neat hand for this thing to work. Definitely check out my guide about this deck if you want to see how it goes in action. But now let's see the updated matchups. Here's what we see. Base Hunter definitely not your friend because you don't exactly have good ways to handle AoE, so that definitely can be annoying, but everything else definitely super solid. As for the matchups, going first, Careless Crafter, the Fishing Rod, Birdwatching, an Oiotron. One of your 1-drops could be a consideration, especially if you don't have your trusty. Thrive in Shadow's not the worst thing in the world to do on 2. Power Word Shield, if you already have a 1-drop, could be nice. And Holy Smite actually could activate a follow-up Grave Dawn, so if you get Holy Smite and have Grave Dawn, maybe you can actually hold on to those 2. On the coin, you can see plenty of the same stuff again, so mulligan accordingly. Here's the list I'm showing you. 23,000 games for almost 60% win rate, but also let's not pretend Protoss Priest is not making a huge comeback right now. And I gotta say, Protoss Priest is a pretty fun deck to be playing, and there are several different iterations of it with pretty respectable sample size too, so you can definitely give those a go as well. Like, look at this, 58%, 2500, here's another one, and so on and so forth. Plenty of different lists out there, but also Fishing Priest is not that bad either. Fishing Priest is still sitting pretty comfortably at 58% with 1600 games, so it's very close to being a part of this top 5 again, but it's definitely not the best Priest deck right now. For the classes we haven't mentioned, starting off with Death Knight, and surprisingly, Menagerie Death Knight is still actually up there, guys. Like, the Menagerie Drug getting nerfed definitely ain't great, but it still is a huge stat dump on turn 4 or 5, so definitely not the worst. Space Death Knight should remain a lot stronger after the patch, if you ask me, and it's probably gonna do quite well in Top Legend. Some people are trying Quest Death Knight as well, but I gotta say, guys, you're not winning because of the quest, you're winning despite the quest, guys. It just takes way too much stuff to actually get that thing going, and the payoff is really not that amazing. I've heard people enjoying Leech Death Knight as well, but so far the stats really do not support it. For Druid, Dollhouse Druid seems to be the best deck right now for the class. I was kinda excited to try something like a Token Druid, but gotta be honest, the meta definitely did not feel that amazing for it. For Mage, we can see Protoss Mage doing quite strong. Very small sample size, true, but definitely promising, might be worth investing into it. Quest Mage is also actually pretty playable according to the early game stats. Very small sample size, very good win rate, however. People have been finding success with this cheap elemental mage as well, so that might be worth exploring. So yeah, definitely plenty of different mage decks out there with decent-ish win rates, but very small sample size, so try them at your own discretion. To be fair, Paladin almost made it into this top 5 list, but as you see, the sample size for these top decks is a little bit on the lower side, but Quest Paladin definitely could have been the 5th deck on this list, and yeah, it's still pretty strong. Like, it did get nerfed, but so did everything else, so why wouldn't it remain strong? Obviously, it's still gonna be very, very good for easy legend climbing, because the deck is just way too simple. There's really nothing complicated about a deck like this. You just plop your minions, rinse and repeat, and they go bigger. You don't really need to think about it much, you just gotta play the next Murloc, and the quest does his job. But also this aggro-y token pally is also doing pretty well, a flood pally more like it, with things like Crusader Aura, Flash Sale, the Ticking plus Pylon module, Ziliax, that kind of stuff is doing pretty respectable with a small-ish sample size, but definitely promising. Imbue pally I think I saw do kinda well, but no, I'm not actually seeing it on the stats, and Drunk pally is also not that amazing according to the early game stats, even though I'm pretty sure in Top Legend people can still make some massive stuff with it. With rogues, Templar Rogue seems to be the best version of the deck so far, and as for the Quest Rogue, well, it's still an absolute dumpster fire, guys. I kinda expected this thing to be at least in the 40-ish percentile after the buffs, but nope, it's nowhere near. Like, it's not even funny how bad a deck is. Combo Rogue is also up there apparently, whatever that means. Like, what are you trying to combo step, bro? But yeah, it's basically a Tempo Rogue with some combo cards included, call it an archetype. And Psycho Rogue, for reasons unknown to me, is still playable, to the point where I'm actually asking myself, is this thing even true? I'm really not sure if this Psycho Rogue is supposed to be on this list, but the rest of the stats definitely look promising. I have no idea why you would still play the Phoenix 6 if it's just return at the end of your hand. Yeah, it's 1 extra card draw, but is that really that great? I don't know, guys, maybe. And last but not least, we have Shaman, with Quest Shaman being actually playable, with very small sample size however, so I wouldn't call it playable just yet. Elemental Shaman is above 50%, but nothing to write home about, and obviously Murmur Shaman got completely deleted. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing in the new meta after the Hearthstone patch. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, a like and subscribe would be awesome, and don't forget to check out my new Raid Shadow Legends channel if you want to see me in a different light. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.